Welcome to In the Chute. This is where I get to field some question or some broad topic. Kaylin tries to stump me sometimes, and sometimes it's informational for me too. What do you got, Kaylin?
All right, so today's topic is tractor troubleshooting, or really equipment troubleshooting. A lot of the times we have transmissions or hydraulics. More often than not, hydraulics go out on our equipment, and it tends to go with our tractor, which happens to be a John Deere tractor. And as of filming today, which is the 13th of January, so 3 days ago on the 10th, there was a lawsuit that was finalized with John Deere, and they are no longer allowed to simply hold on to equipment and make all the repairs themselves, which costs a lot of money for a lot of people. And now it's going to cost them a lot of money too. So really the question is, how do we troubleshoot? How do we deal with it? What have we done in the past when it came to John Deere products? And now how will that impact us and other agriculture people in the future with this new ruling?
Yeah. Well, your comment about hydraulics, I mean, we have troubles with everything.
Right.
When
Yeah.
things age and they break, and you see what's wrong and you try to repair it. And if you can on your own, you can. And I think we did a video one where we did have a hole, just a pinhole in a hydraulic line. Of course, it was like 20 below outside. It was brutal. Got it in the shop, got it kind of thawed out, but you couldn't see it. Can't find it. And this is something that wouldn't be detected anyway unless you started the tractor up or whatever hydraulics. It could be on our feed pickup too. You know, we got a hydro bed bale handler that runs on hydraulics. So we ended up basically to find it. You know, you run your hands along lines, you try to find a flat spot, find something where it's wet. And in this case, it was wet everywhere. But start it up and start going through your hydraulics where you know the problem. You can feel it a lot of times in your equipment on the joystick to get it to move in some direction. And sure enough, I mean, it was a pinhole that if you'd have had your hand over that when it went, it probably with the kind of pressure on there, would have ripped your skin open, went inside your flesh, which is always a hazard and a warning around high pressure stuff, whether it's water, hydraulics, you name it. Anyway, those are things you can find, diagnose, and change them out yourself. The real problem is um, in the computerized end of everything. And these some of these newer model tractors, and I'm talking, ours is what, a 2003, I think. Yeah, which was a way upgrade from our old one. But uh you know the problem is electronics and motherboards and things like that. And then their engineers are trying to protect their intellectual property. And I get that. You develop stuff, it's your money that goes into research and development. You spend millions of dollars to try to build something that's usable for a customer, and you don't want just everybody to do that. I get that. I get that part. But there comes a time when you are so protective of it, and to the point where you don't really let anybody else have the programming to fix something when it goes right, where you have to
In,
bring that equipment to a dealer or they
in,
come to you at a service
Including your
charge.
customer, the people that paid for that equipment.
That's what I'm talking about, is your
Yeah.
customers. When it goes wrong, it goes to them, uh to their shop. You drag it in, or they send their service people out at exorbitant costs. So we the thing to really kind of equate that with is a whole lot different than, say, um the pharmaceutical industry. They come up with some new drug that is a wonder drug, or doesn't even have to be a wonder drug, but is very usable, but they jack the prices on it to the point where who can afford it? And
Right.
so they're hitting, a lot of people with really a monopoly and a monopolized type of behavior that you're forced into. So this has been brewing for a number of years here in Montana, where we've got a right to repair, basically is what it's called. And it's at the point where if a sensor has gone bad, because it will tell you something is you know run amok on this sensor. And the sensor may be something like an air filter is plugging, say, for instance. The sensor's bad, but it tells it that the air filter is plugged. When you look, the air filter is not plugged, but you can't bypass that sensor to continue to run in a time, especially say like on a combine or some haying equipment, where you have got to get this stuff harvested or you're going to lose a crop. I mean, it's time sensitive, and they don't always have service people to work on that right now. We'll get to you next week, maybe, or we're 2 weeks out. That is unacceptable. So for you to be able to contact or bypass it yourself, or contact another vendor, a mom and pop's store who are very competent, work on a lot of equipment, but they can't work on the John Deere stuff because they don't have the software packages to be able to do that. You could call them and come out, have them come out, but you can't. So it's been a big deal, and lawsuits, have been filed, have been worked on. I mean, they got lawyers on a ballroom floor doing their dance, and trying to resolve this. But it's about them saving their own monopoly, and that's what
Right.
it comes down to. It isn't just intellectual property at that point. It's a monopoly of service work and income, forced income into their shop. So
Well,
I love John Deere products. Oh, go ahead.
there's a lot there for me too, because, well, looking at it from a business perspective, it is safety on their part, but then it's also a very strategic part in terms of it's upcharging. It's like when you go to your phone, you get a new phone. The new phone might be $600, right? In this day and age, that's a cheap phone. But then, oh, we're going to upcharge you with this upgrade plan. This might be a premium plan instead of your basic. So that's another $25 a month. Okay, now we're going to get you a new case. And like all these little things that are actually necessary, like a case is kind of an insurance plan at this point because of the way smartphone technology works. That's an upcharge. And that's what they're doing a lot with this in terms of the people coming out there and fixing it for you. The other thing too is what, kind of like what you said, is everything's time sensitive. When you are in the middle of a crop and you have to get things done, some of those guys, I know crews and families, they run 24/7. Like, hey
Oh, yeah.
man, you got night shift, I got day shift. Okay, sounds good. And that combine or that tractor or whatever it is running 24/7. The only time it stops or pauses, it doesn't really stop. It only pauses to go get fueled, and that's it. They might throw a little more hydraulic oil in there, whatever needs to run, but it doesn't stop. It just keeps running until that crop is in because it
Right.
has to. Exactly what you said.
Well, and this is why when, I'm 11, 12, 13 years old, I'm running equipment,
Right.
because we're haying, and you're an extra hand. You're capable. You're strong enough to do it. You're competent. You get shown a little bit and you get turned loose because every hand is needed. And
Right.
it's just like that. To me, the service work, when you have somebody coming out in service, they're not really upcharging. I think it's even worse than that. They're holding you hostage for the very base operational fixes
Right.
on these things.
You're
I
a
mean,
good
it's
point.
not even upcharging you on things, which is even worse. You could have the option to say, no, I don't need that. You've got no option. I need this, and this is how it's going to get running again.
Well, and the
Uh,
other question I have too is, that's a very good point, but this was just handed out 3 days ago, so on
mhm,
January 10th. The question is, how long is it going to take to get implemented now? Are they gonna slowly dole this out and try and just run it as long as they can to try and hold on as long as they can, and then eventually people just give up on it? Because now, keep in mind, John Deere has been losing people to things like Case,
right.
which is International Harvester and Case. I think they've been losing to, is
Ford
another
New Holland, probably.
New Holland probably. Yeah, but a couple bigger names, they're starting to lose people because of this very issue.
Right.
So the thing is, are they going to keep trying to squeeze it out until they end up probably going into bankruptcy because they can't figure out how to do their budgeting, or are they just going to cut it immediately and lose it and take their losses now and try and work with it? That's the real question, because like we've seen in other things in other discussions we've had, like the NCBA with cattle industry and everything, they say they'll do things, but it hasn't really come to fruition. I wonder
Right.
if John Deere does the same thing, or if they just cut their losses now and they move forward.
Well, here's what I can see happening, and I don't know the particulars of what has to be done or what they're going to be ordered to do
Right.
or how they're going to share this property. But here's how I see it happening so that they can kind of work around it. And that is say, yeah, we will go ahead and share our software, but it'll be such a price that mom and pop places can't afford to buy
Right.
their, and they're complying because they're saying, yeah, it's available. Nobody can tell you what you can sell and market your stuff for necessarily. So that might be one way that they still maintain a monopoly, because there's a couple of places that we've taken equipment to in the past, some of the older John Deere stuff, or had them come out and they did really good work, but it was not the computerized stuff, some of the
Right.
older things. So that's a real consideration. And I think that's how, looking at how can you get around things, that's probably how it would likely happen, unless that's specified that it has to be a reasonable, and not who says what reasonable is,
Right.
that's that's a whole different test.
And if I was them, I think I'd just cut my losses, because if you do that, you're going to end up again losing more and more customers over time. And I think you're going to start reporting losses, and your shareholders are not going to enjoy that.
Right. You start making your customers mad to the point where they're ready to quit you. And honestly, when we bought this tractor, I was going to buy a case, partly
Yeah.
because of that issue. Here's the thing that did keep me with John Deere, and that is they have the ability to replace a part. You can get it. It isn't necessarily obsolete. You can get it from them. You may pay for it, but you can get it and keep your equipment running. And a good, I think, I don't know if we did a video on this or not, where I had the chain brake on a 1947 John Deere manure spreader that's still, we're still using this thing. It's got steel spoked wheels. And I broke the chain on it. I was like, oh my God, 1947, how many years, we're 60 years out on this thing. And I'm thinking, oh no. I went to John Deere, I took the part in, I took this, a link or two of this chain, and showed him, took some pictures of it, showed it how, and he goes, oh yeah. He goes, I'm surprised you got the model number on this. It's right there on it. I was able to pull it because it's stamped. It's not even got a plate. It is like it's a welded stamp or forged stamp in this thing, and has what the model number is. Took a picture of that too, took it in. He looked it up on his computer, and he goes, oh yeah, there are two applications of chain to this. We got them both. Which one do you want? And I could buy individual links. I could buy the links that attach to the cross pieces. They had it. It was there in the store. No, can't say that. But they ordered it, and it was to me within 3-4 days.
Yeah.
That is
The
the
benefit.
good side of John Deere, but
Yeah.
the other part of that is you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, that's at first how we identify issues, how we deal with them. Sometimes it's just sticking a whole lot of hydraulic oil in it and making it work until we get to the next spot. But that's
Yes.
fewer and rarer as we go. But
Well,
then there's
sometimes
also
it depends on it. Sometimes it's cheaper, and if you got a job to do, yeah, you got a hydraulic leak at a seal.
yeah.
You know what? I got to keep going. I keep watching it so it doesn't blow out. But once I can stop and have a period of time, then we change that seal out. That's just weighing your options and what's the best of the bad situation.
Well, more or less, it's repairs on the home front when it comes to ranching equipment. So with that, we'll take that conversation and put it out to pasture.